Well, welcome once again to Podcast Radio. The Pod 20 is a show that I host on Fridays at 5 p.m. and across the weekend when I talk to some of the world's greatest podcasters. And it's a real pleasure to have my next guest, Griff. I just tweeted this out. I don't know if you saw it. There are three people who, when I think of them, I instantly get a feeling of joy. One of them is my wife. The other one is the legendary Chicago broadcaster Jonathan Brandmeier. And the third one is you, Griff.
Wow, Graham, that's such a big deal because you know everybody.
But just thinking about you just brings instant joy and a smile to my face. And it's great to find. Where are you right now?
I'm actually in Dallas, Texas. Probably when I met you, I was in Atlanta. I've been in Dallas the last 5 years. I'm on a nationally syndicated morning show, an inspirational show with Erica Campbell from the group Mary Mary. And we're on in every big city in America except Los Angeles. But this is where we broadcast from. But for the last year and a half, I've been broadcasting from my studio right here in my home.
Right, in Dallas.
Yes.
So where are you from?
I'm from Los Angeles, California, born and raised, West Coast.
Because I first met you, you were working in Atlanta, but it wasn't in Atlanta I met you. It was in New Orleans in 2005, about 3 weeks before Hurricane Katrina came through.
Oh, man, I met you at the morning show boot camp. I'm talking about, I don't even think it was 3 weeks, dog. It might have been 2 weeks,
It was close, yeah.
It was the same buildings we was at and the streets we was there. How crazy is that, right? I tell people, like, it's hard to, that whole thing was a lot because I was like, we was just there.
Yeah. And I had come out from England to go to the boot camp, and I'd been to a few before. And they have a session there. Well, I should explain what it is. It's radio personalities from all over America and Canada and elsewhere. I think there were some people there from Africa that year.
Yeah.
And we were there, and they have this session called Battle of the Bits, where each show gets up and talks about something they've done on the air in the last 12 months, and everybody else there uses that for inspiration to come up with their own bit, or they can just steal it and put it on the air when they get back home, and that's how it works.
Exactly. Yeah. But that's what they're encouraging. It's not really stealing, like, try
it's
this
sharing.
With your fans.
Yeah, the whole vibe of the thing is like that. It's a sharing thing, isn't it? Yeah. So people are talking about all these stunts, and I remember there was one that involved a helicopter. I think it was called, was that the one, Screw Over Your Boss? Screw Over Your Ex, where people, did the wild thing in a helicopter over their ex's house and all the rest of it. And then all of a sudden it comes to you. Do you remember what you said when you got up to speak?
I don't. Tell me. I probably remember after you tell me.
You said, wow, these people, you got helicopters? You said at my station, we're lucky to have gas for the van.
Yeah. And when you was just telling that story again, I was like, man, them people had helicopters in 05. We ain't even got enough bumper stickers for everybody at this stop we're making, but y'all jumping out of helicopters. I love American white people.
So tell me about that station then. But you were in Atlanta at one time. You were on the number one R&B station. Was that the station you were on at the time?
No, I did. At that time, I was on a hip hop station, and all the hip hop, all the urban morning shows was there. So Ricky Smiley, who now took over Tom Joyner's place, but a lot of people like that, and it was a mix because it's really weird. In America, it's 320 million people in America, but it's only about 49 million Black people here, so we're the minority. But in radio, we're even more of the minority. So going to morning show boot camps, and you're there with country music people and rock people and soft rock people, and it was so cool to me, and I've been going ever since. Like I'm talking my team now because we haven't been, of course, COVID last year, and I think they didn't do it 1 year or something, but they're having it again in August, and I'm telling my team we need to be there. It's in Chicago. It's it's a big deal. Like, it's a huge deal for radio, and it taught me a lot. I was going when I wasn't on the radio. Like, I was on the beach a couple times between radio gigs. That's a nice white people way of saying you don't have a job. I'm on the beach.
Yeah. But
I was fired a gang of times. So there was no beach, but there was a lot of sand and dirt. And
but you've managed to survive because you have multiple sources of income. It's one of the things that you worked out when you're in Atlanta. I think you worked that out. And you've done so much: stand-up comedy, broadcasting. You're a writer, a published author, public speaker. If you had to choose one of the things you do as the thing that defines you, what would it be, Griff?
Well, I'm definitely a comedian first. Today, I celebrate 26 years, 2 months, and 5 days doing stand-up comedy. I wanted to be a comedian since I was 3. My gift, a lot of people think my gift is making people laugh, but my actual gift is timing. I'm blessed with timing, so I'm always on a plane next to the dude who's about to start a new TV show and he's looking for an audience warm up, or I'm in the bathroom with the guy whose brother owns a comedy club, and my whole life. Like, I mean, even meeting you back then in 2005, and we've stayed, if I go to London, I'm reaching out for you. Last time I was there, you was on holiday. But I've figured out that the whole world and our existence in life is all in relationships. It's just all relations. You're in a relationship with your boss. You're in a relationship with your coworkers. You're in a relationship with the people you go to school with. You're in a relationship with the people that you're at a restaurant and eating at. It's all relationships. So you just want to bring a lot to the relationship. How about that?
Well, you certainly do that. And talking of relationships, you're a newlywed. Congratulations. How long now?
Come on, man. I think I've been married. I think I'm 7 months and 9 days, dog. I'm almost 7 months out here. I'm out here with the heartbeat coming out my chest, cartoon style still. I'm so in love.
Well, that must have been tricky during the pandemic. Was it all socially isolated, the event?
You know what? Well, we was already she lived in Louisville, Kentucky. So she lived in Kentucky and I lived in Texas. So we was already social distancing for reals. We saw each other every 6 weeks in 2 years. In 2020, I because we weren't doing entertainment comedy, I was still doing radio, but I wasn't on the road no more. And it just taught me how to concentrate on things that was important. And what was important to me was relationships, having peace, and, finding love again after a pretty hard divorce.
So where'd you meet then if you're so far apart?
On Instagram. She was in my DM. She gonna say she wasn't. She loved to say, all women and girls got way different ways. Well, he was, no, she was in my DMing me on Instagram about something, and I had got catfished a girl before her, right? So I was like, I'm gonna fly to Louisville, Kentucky, home of Muhammad Ali, and see if she looked like her pictures. And then she did, and we kind of just went from there.
What do you mean catfish? What does that expression mean? Do I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about?
Oh, catfish is when, you and a person be going back and forth on the phone, and then you go meet them and they don't look like they pictures because they lying. They weigh 200 kilos. You know what I'm saying? You've been sending me pictures of this 48 kilo size girl, and you look like you ate that lady in the bar. So, catfish.
Okay. So let's move forward then. That was the first time we met. It was 2005 in New Orleans. I forget where the boot camp was the year after that. I didn't go, but I went
the year. You might have been in Nashville the next time I saw you.
No, I think it was Chicago. I think it was the one after that, 2007. Oh, okay. Yeah. And what I remember about that one was once again that you were the star of Battle of the Bits. The same session, everybody's getting up, telling, what they'd done on the air so they can inspire others and share what they did. And there are some very good friends of mine and yours who used to host a show together in New Zealand. It was JJ and Dom.
JJ, I just talked to Dom Harvey last week, probably.
Isn't it weird how we're all over the world doing this, and we all connect up through the boot camp? It's amazing because we're all going through the same issues at the radio stations and work for the same idiots, all the same thing. But you were there at this Battle of the Bits, and Dom had stood up, and he was talking about a bit where they got listeners to call in, and they were delivering a truck full of manure to somebody's driveway. If somebody had wronged you, if it was your boss, whatever, they said they got this truck full of manure, and it was a tipper truck, and they would tip it on the driveway. And as I said, mostly in the room is Americans, and the New Zealand accent is tricky for Americans to tune into at first, but you'd got there, and you did a simultaneous translation. Do you remember that?
What he said is he gonna drop expletive on everybody's. Me and Dom and JJ are so close. It's funny because the New Zealand accent. I go to South Africa often. When I go again, it'll be my 25th time going in the last 12 years, right? I think I'm South African. But the South African is a British colonized country. So no one in America would know the difference between a South African and somebody from London. Like they just won't. Right. But the New Zealand accent, and all you kind of hearing is Australia. And then I met a comedian from Australia. He said, we treat the New Zealanders like y'all treat Canada. Like we know it's up there. We just don't care.
But you were doing this translation, and for the most part, you were translating it correctly. But then you said, Dom said something, and then you said, "Death to America." You don't remember that?
Graham, I'm glad I got people like you that can always remind me of what I used to say.
But we'll talk about South Africa in a bit. But I want to talk about this. I can't remember how long after that was. I was listening online, and I don't often listen to radio online, but I know JJ and Dom, and they were on. It was one evening in the UK, and I thought, JJ and Dom will be on now. I'll just tune in. And I heard them talking, and in the background, I heard this laugh, and I went, that's Griff. And I thought, have they taken a tape of Griff's laugh, and are they using it as a laugh track on the show? And then I realized, no, Griff's in the studio. Griff has flown from America to New Zealand to be on JJ and Dom's show. How did that come about?
So we were in Nashville morning show boot camp, and JJ and them was there, and that might have been in April, and they was like, if you ever in New Zealand, let us know. So I think I got fired in August 30th of that year. All the morning shows around the country in our company were becoming syndicated by the same person. So, the Miami, Atlanta, Detroit, DC, New York, like everybody. So I went there in November. I went there in November of 98. I stayed for 2 weeks, and I was on the radio Monday through Friday for 2 weeks. I think by Wednesday, New Zealand had one comedy club, but it was around the corner from the station. By Wednesday, I was featuring at the comedy club. And then the next week, I was headlining. Then we flew to Christchurch to do a pop-up show in front of like 400 people. It was, that's one thing about me, man. I don't have no fear as far as meeting people. And if you tell me I can come over, I'm coming. Like you. Don't tell me if you ever in Zanzibar. I can get there.
But they had you doing the haka. They had you did you bungee jump there too, didn't you? In New Zealand?
I bungee jumped off a bridge.
Yeah, Auckland Harbour Bridge.
But then Dom was another radio thing they was doing. It was crash my pool party or something like that, right?
Right.
Basically, what Dom was doing was he was having 30, 40 listeners go to people who had pools that weren't home, and we was just in their yard until the police came or until the people came. Hey, man.
All right.
Death
Well,
to America. That's what it was.
that's what you said, yeah. But this is the first time we've been on the air together since 2009. I had you on the breakfast show when I was up at TFM and Teesside. I had you on the phone, and
That's right.
it was the day after Obama had been elected. That was a big deal to you. You were quite emotional that morning.
Oh man, it was because back we never saw it. Again, you talking about the 50 million people or the 40 million back then that was always told we could never be the president, or that was something that wasn't for us, and to have my kids see that, and for him to be the kind of man that he was, just one of the classiest human beings, ever. It was a big deal. It was a real big deal.
Was it a bit of a come down when Trump got in then?
Man, it's hard to define Trump to people that don't live in America, man. Like, the dude, as a international performer and traveler, he took down the credit of America by about 70% in 4 years, where other continents no longer look to the U.S. to do things first because he destroyed our credibility around the world. And I just like to say he destroyed white folk. It wasn't black people that was doing it. That was white folk. He brought out a real ugly side of America that had kind of been suppressed, and he brought it up. And the last 2-3 years been hectic out here, man. It's been real hectic, for reals.
How's Joe Biden doing so far then?
I love Joe Biden because Joe Biden don't say nothing. And it's really weird when you're on a radio and you got a president that tweet 30 ignorant things every day with the misspellings and the wrong information. And here you go, you don't hear nothing from Joe Biden. And then his dog died, and then they passed Juneteenth as a federal holiday. And then I love Joe Biden. He don't say you're not supposed to be telling everybody what we doing. You're not supposed to be threatening the enemies and saying, well, if y'all nuke us, we gonna nuke. Like, you supposed to shut up. I love that he just shutting up and being the president.
You gonna be the president one day, Griff?
Never. I
Why
got
not?
too much baggage.
I think you'd be a good president.
I think I would be too, but when they start pulling up, did you say this at a morning show boot camp? Did you? Like, that's gonna kill me. It don't even matter if I got the money. It's gonna be all my quotes. It's gonna be the things I forget, but people like you remember and say, one time I was with him and he said, ...
So, Griff, you grew up in Los Angeles. Can we talk about your background then? So,
yeah, of course.
What kind of background was it? Because I know your parents had multiple marriages and stuff, and you had a pretty tough start.
Man, my upbringing, I like to say now, I try not to villainize my parents now, as a parent, but I'll just say my dad had a bad 80s and 90s. My dad's been married 5 times. My mom's been married 9 times. I went to 21 different schools growing up. It taught me so much because I understood very early that school was a microcosm of the world. You had your cliques, you had the most popular guy, the most popular girl. Normally, they didn't like each other. It was always a bully. Every school I went to, I just befriended the bullies. So the bully would be like, man, I hit you in your face. I'd be like, little boy, my daddy hit me in my face and he's in the Marines. And the bully go, oh, really? So I use comedy and vocabulary and my wit to survive growing up, and it was a real, my father was very middle class, and he lived in the Bay Area, California, in the San Francisco, Oakland area, about 6 hours north of Los Angeles. And then my mom, we weren't so middle class, but you would, for some reason, and it took me a long time to disassociate money with how I felt about my dad, because my dad had so much money and he had cars, but he was such a jerk. He was such a mean man, so it made me straddle the fence on I'd rather be poor and happy than, wealthy and mean and violent. And you know what I'm saying? So I joined the Army at 17. I copied Morse code during Desert Storm. I had a top secret security clearance when I was 18 years old. That's what a lot of people don't know about me, Graham. I'm smart. I'm hella smart.
You got an amazing memory. That was something that got you through when you were a kid, wasn't it? Man,
I'm talking about at every school and every class, my memory saved my life. It's tough having a memory like mine, because some stuff you shouldn't remember. Like some stuff you need to let go and never remember again. But I got this challenging memory, man, that I remember everything. And then you got to remember stuff and then forgive people and then remember that you forgave them. It's a lot.
But why did you join the military then? Did it seem like the only hope for you?
I joined the Army to spite my father because he was in the Marines. So my whole life, I had heard, Semper Fidelis, a Marine man is a good man. Hoorah, go Marines, Bulldog. So I came home and I was like, Army. And my father, without thinking twice, said, oh, you joined the Army? The Army means ain't ready for the Marines yet. I said, man, I worked all that up just to have him. I told my mama, who's been married 9 times, I told my mama about 4 years ago, I got the courage to tell her, I said, Mom, all the dudes you met and married is the sorriest dudes I ever met in my whole life. And my mother very quickly said, look how many examples I gave you on how not to be.
Wow. And is that true? I mean, is that what do you find yourself going, what would he have done, and do the opposite?
Well, I think, I had to learn very early that I was out here by myself. Probably about 9, 10 years old, I realized adults weren't helping me and my family. And I was even working on trying to be emancipated. In America, if you're a kid and maybe your family is on drugs, your parents, you can go to court and emancipate yourself, like leave your family and go get a job. And the court says, okay, if so I was trying to go through the process of that. And I all the moving around in different schools. And I always just wanted stability. I joined the military and found out that I ain't a military person. Like I want to be a comedian. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to, I'm the wrong person to tell what to do. Like I'm going to have 90 questions. And if by around question number 4, I feel like you don't know what you're talking about, I'm not listening to you no more. So, Graham, you know how it is. If you ask somebody, you say, hey, excuse me, I'm looking for Buckingham Palace. Which way is it? And the person go, Buckingham Palace, Buckingham. Buckingham. I think in my mind, I'm already thinking about who I'm going to ask next. Like, I already know you don't know what you're talking about. So just learned a lot of social skills, man, that ended up later helping me later in life. But my upbringing wasn't so great. And I'm so blessed and thankful that the Lord says in our Bible, if you are a Christian, that God will give you back the time you thought you lost, in your latter years. I'm so thankful to have made it to my latter years without being arrested, without going to jail, without selling drugs, without joining a gang. You know what I'm saying? I'm just real thankful. I just want to be happy, man. I saw so much anger and violence, and I just knew in my soul that it was a polar opposite.
Yeah. And you've helped kids, haven't you, who haven't had strong role models, who grew up in similar circumstances, to give them strong role models.
I believe that's my passion on the planet. I believe that's what's going to get me a Nobel Peace Prize through my foundation, the Process Success Foundation. I'm just teaching kids processes. Like if I can take them on a field trip and show them the process of a tire being made at the Michelin tire plant, right? And they see that it's hot rubber, then it goes into a mold, then they put if they can see the process of a tire, then I can teach them the process of forgiveness. Then I can teach them the process of giving somebody a chance, the process of loving yourself,
That must be really fulfilling, Griff. Yeah?
Oh man, that's what I do it for, man. I don't know. I'm from Cali, but I don't know how to act Hollywood. I'm just me. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? If I come to London and show my wife London, I'm the first person I'm calling is you, asking you where you at, what side of the city you live on, when can we get together? But I know that I'm an ambassador for African Americans all around the world. I know that I'm an ambassador for fathers, and I'm a leader. When you're a leader, you live different. I don't get to do everything everybody else gets to do, and now I see why. I didn't understand, when I was growing up, but now it all paid off. Still not gonna be able to be president because of stuff I said, but that ain't the point.
So let's talk about comedy. You got into comedy before radio?
Oh yeah, I started comedy. I started comedy April 14th, 1995, and then I got my first radio job in November of 98.
I see. So was that after you came out of the army? You just decided, you go to some open mics and stuff?
Well, I lived in Germany for 5 years. And I played football over there. Remember when the World League folded? They still had those stadiums over there and stuff. So we played in front of about 2,500, 3,000 people on the weekend. And then football, American football was very new to the Germans. So they only allowed 2 Americans on the field at one time, like 2 on offense, 2 on defense. So it was normally like an American quarterback and like an American wide receiver or American linebacker and American safety. And then everybody else was German, just trying to learn the game. So they could be 6 foot, they could be 2.2 meters, and little dudes was crushing them in the chest. And that was fun. But it'd be like trying to start a soccer league out here with Americans, and then first you got to teach them soccer. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you 16 and a 16-year-old from London is teaching an American 16-year-old about soccer, even if I taught you everything I know in a week, on that 8th day, you're not going to be good. Like, you just, we play with a football from when we, as soon as we can walk, but y'all kick a soccer ball as soon as you can walk too. So it's big deal. I'm a soccer fan now, though. I'm Bayern Munich all day.
Oh, that's your team.
I saw Michael Jackson at Munich Olympia Halle in 93, and it was in front of 97,000 people. So I'm asking the people around me, I'm like, wait a minute. It'd have been 97,000 people in here if Michael Jackson wasn't here either. And they was like, yeah. So I learned about soccer immediately. I think EA Sports had made FIFA 94 or something that year, and I was in it was a British dude in the army who would teach me. He loved rugby, but he
Right.
was trying to teach me. I was trying to teach him football, but he was trying to teach me rugby, but then he would teach me soccer for real.
So how did that lead to comedy then? Did it start in Germany when you're in the army?
I mean, I wanted to be a comedian since I was 3. My mother worked at nursing homes, convalescent homes, and she would put the old people in half a circle and tell me go make them laugh, right? So I was on like this geriatric tour the first years of my life. And it wasn't, wait a minute, Graham, no. It wasn't really telling comedy per se. It was really like saying, okay, Mrs. Robinson, you got something right here. Mr. Rodriguez, you peed on yourself a little bit. All right, I'm going to the moon, so. But I have been doing comedy I was doing stuff in the army. Everybody knew. The
Yeah.
army even the army people was like, why are you a soldier? You a horrible soldier. Go be a comedian.
And who were you listening to and watching? Which comedians were really switching you on?
People ask me that all the time, my top 3. And I have to say George Burns. George Burns was doing comedy when he was 96 on the Strip in Las Vegas, drinking brandy and smoking a cigar. And then Bob Hope, both George Burns and Bob Hope died at 100 years old. But Bob Hope, the way he was a veteran, the troops loved him. He hosted the Oscars like 8 times. He was doing stuff, the Playboy All-American football, like they just loved him. And I just, the old black and white movies, On the Road to Morocco and stuff like that. I was just a fan. And then my third one was Steve Martin. In his book, what is it? It's a stand-up. It's standing up.
Yeah, I think it's called. Yeah, I've read it. It's a great book. Yeah.
Some about is yellow and black, right? Some about born
standing up. That's it, isn't it? Born standing up. Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah. He stopped doing comedy after 19 years, and he was on Vegas, and he was having a horrible set, and his guitar wouldn't come down, and he just hated what he had become. And Steve Martin was the first person to do arenas. He was the first person to do 10, 15,000, just doing comedy. And then he quit doing comedy, and the next day he wrote The Jerk.
The movie, yeah.
He was so smart, though. A lot of people don't know. He was going to UCLA part-time for not as a chemist, but as I can't remember, but he kind of explained to me, between him and Robin Williams, they explained to me how, not personally, but I learned from them that you have to be really smart. You can't be kind of smart. Like you got to be smart. So you're clever, you know what I'm saying? So you're quick. But I learned all that. And then I learned that Saturday Night Live, me and my mom was Saturday Night Live fans, man. We never missed the episode. I'm talking about when I was 4, when I was
So
5.
what was the lineup there? Because we didn't get Saturday Night Live here, but obviously the comedians that came out of Saturday Night Live became
Chevy
legends.
Chase,
Right?
Chevy Chase, Steve Martin, Belushi. Then Eddie Murphy came in 81. But what I learned from Saturday Night Live was comedy is visual. You understand? So that every week they would do a same set, but then they would just stretch it a little bit. Same joke. It was just a premise. Like, for example, Wayne's World is a premise joke of 2 white dudes that's trailer park that live in a basement, but they in their mind, they think they on TV. So that's the joke. But
Yeah.
every week they stretch it a little bit. They stretch it a little bit. They stretch it a little bit. So what it ultimately taught me is that a joke never ends. It
Right.
never ends.
If the setup's right and it's there. Yeah. Yeah. So what's the difference between a comedian and a comic then?
Milton Berle in his last interview with Larry King said, there's comics and comedians, and comics are people that say funny things, and comedians are people that make things funny. And I'm a comedian. I'm an observational comedian. I can talk about my day in 30 minutes and make it interesting enough to be funny. You know, I'm always looking. The funny is out there.
Yeah.
You just got to look for it. And a lot of times the funny ain't funny, which makes it funny later, if that makes sense.
So how did you get into radio then? What was your first break there? And so far away from home, because you were in Los Angeles, but your first radio job was in Atlanta, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I moved to Washington, D.C. after I left Germany.
Right.
And because my kids were there, my ex-wife was stationed at the National Security Agency, NSA, at Fort Meade in Maryland. So I moved close to my kids, like 10 miles away in a city called Columbia. And I started comedy there. But then a lady saw me in 1997 opening up for Mark Curry, who was then on Hanging with Mr. Cooper, and she was on a radio in Baltimore. And she was like, and then a year later, I came on a radio with them, and he moved to Atlanta, and he brought me with him. So my radio career was quick because I didn't go to school.
He moved to a new city and needed a co-host, and so he thought of you. But it was like years later?
That was like 19 months later. So imagine me and you doing this gig right here. And then in almost early 2023, you say, Griff, I just got a TV show. I want you to be on the show. That's my life, man. I'm always in the right place.
But like you mentioned South Africa earlier, and you've been there a lot. How did that come about? How did you end up doing stand-up in South Africa?
I'm gonna tell you. So when I was with JJ and Dom
in New Zealand
at the comedy show, my last day at the comedy, like the last show on Saturday night, I'm outside, I'm signing autographs, and this white lady who looked like the lady that drove the truck from Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, she looked like, tell them Large Marge sent you, right? So she said, hey, man, she was smoking a cigarette. She was like, you're really funny. I said, thank you so much. She said, I'm here because my daughter is dating this New Zealand guy, and I wanted to meet him, and I don't like him. I said, I don't like him either. And she said, have you ever been to Africa? I said, I went in 2001. I went to South Africa with a radio trip. She said, I'm South African. And she said, they're going to love you in Africa. And she went on to tell me that her and her husband were partnering with a man named Joe Parker to build the first comedy club in South Africa inside Monte Casino. In April of the next year, I was their first international act. And
wow.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? That's the crazy. I love that story because what if I wouldn't have came to New Zealand?
Yeah.
What if I wouldn't have been cool with JJ and Dom?
From boot camp? Yeah. All the pieces of the puzzle.
Now,
yeah.
Even my job now, when I got this job in April of 2016, this guy I know, but I didn't know him well. He called me on the 14th and he was like, hey, there might be a space for you in this syndicated space. I'm going to call you back. Are you interested? I was like, yeah. He called me a couple days later. He was like, I'm going to send you a non-disclosure agreement. He didn't send it. I was like, another radio. You know how it is.
Yeah.
They tell you they need you, then they go get somebody else, but they was excited that you would. But then he sent the non-disclosure agreement the next week around Tuesday. So I'm like, man, why me? He said, I remember when we were in Miami for this radio thing and you was making everybody laugh and I was on one of the shuttles going back and forth and you just had everybody cracking up. That was 10 years prior to this phone call.
This is the impression you make on people, Griff.
I'm so blessed though, because
what if I was a
jerk? What if I was a jerk to you? What if I was a jerk to, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm planting these seeds that I don't even know, but the seeds that grow in people grow way different than the seed that grow in the earth. Ooh, that's good.
That is good. That is good. So you mentioned that she said they would love you in South Africa, and they do. But there is one person who doesn't love you, and that's Oscar Pistorius. He hates you. He hates you, Griff. Tell us what happened there.
He hates me. You're right. So that's such a good setup, Grant. That was good. Where does Oscar Pistorius is the dude that was in the Olympics from South Africa with the legs. He had his leg.
Yeah.
So he was like the first person that was disabled that they let be in the Olympics, right? Instead of the handicap Olympics. I can't think of it right now. Or
the Paralympics. Paralympics.
Yeah, he was the first person that, kind of crossed over into the Olympics.
He's a superstar. Yeah.
He was everything. He didn't win nothing, but he was such a big deal because his confidence, and he was actually really, really fast with them things, and gave people a close scare. Well, later he killed his girlfriend on Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And then instead he didn't, and blah, 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 blah.
Big court case. It was on, there was televised court case.
He is South Africa's O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Like straight up.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm performing on Valentine's Day in South Africa.
Right.
And the white people in South Africa are called Afrikaans. The Afrikaans are mixed with German and Dutch, so they're pretty big people. Oscar, of course, is Afrikaans, one of their most famous sons, who they used to like, but now they,
Yeah, being a murderer will put you off people. Yeah.
So I'm doing this whole bit about Oscar. It's funny to me. I've done it before on TV. Everybody's laughing, but it's this table that was in the front. There's like 12 people at this table, and I'm telling the Oscar joke, and everybody around them is laughing, right?
Right.
But this table is like this. And some of them are even going,
oh, really?
Don't do that joke. And I'm like, first of all, I don't know you. I'm not. Stop it. This joke is funny. I'm halfway in. It's ending. It's happening today. Well, I learned later that everybody at that table knew Oscar Pistorius. I think one of them was his best friend. The other, it was a girl that it was his cousin. It was basically Oscar's table. So they go to the manager and say, man, this dude, he sucks. He does this Black American, woo, woo, woo. So Joe Parker, comedian and a comedy club owner, he pays me out, for 2 weeks. And he's trying not to laugh. He's like, Griff, you never gonna believe who called me yesterday. And I was like, I don't know. Jacob Zuma, that was their president. He's like, Oscar Pistorius. I said, for reals? What'd he say? He said, he hates you first, number one. And then he asked, could you not have Black Americans talk about me in Africa? So me and Joe are in tears. We are crying. I said, Joe, what'd he say? What'd he say? Joe said, hello? This is Oscar Pistorius. Hey, Joe, I'm a big fan of yours, but not the Black American who was there yesterday. I wish I was leaving like on the flight at 8 p.m. I wish he would have called the day before so I could have said that as my last joke on the way out.
Yeah.
Oh, man, stop it.
Yeah.
That was comedy gold right there.
Was
Oscar
it ever?
Pistorius does hate me, ladies and gentlemen.
So that hasn't affected your popularity in South Africa because you've done a couple of specials there, haven't you, on TV?
Yeah, I've been on Comedy Central Africa 3 times. You can see behind me right here. That's one of the shows I did. Actually, on that show right there, it was called Divine, and it was a Jewish comedian, Sankofa. His parents was witch doctors or healers. It was a atheist, a Muslim, and then me, and I closed the show. So I understand their culture. I love South Africa. My spirit loves South Africa even more. But it's definitely somewhere I'm actually flying when I go. We're working on I was supposed to do something in March at a casino this year, but they still on COVID lockdown. So now we're looking at September, October for the same thing. But I'm definitely going home soon.
Yeah, yeah. And you've done all kinds of other things. Let's talk about a couple of them. You played a dog in a movie.
Oh man, that was cool. Yeah, I played the voice of a dog. It was a live dog, and I played his voice. And the direction for that was really fun.
What's the movie, Griff? Maybe we can track it down.
That don't make no sense. I can't even think of it.
It might come to you when you tell me about the story about how this all happened.
I gotta pull it up.
How many movies have you made, Griff?
I've been in it. See, I've been doing a few. I did 2 Christmas movies this year. In the last 3 months that'll be coming out later on in the year, and then I got some shows that we just pitched and greenlit for South Africa and something else. I do a lot, and then I forget. You know what I'm saying? Like you was even like
the man with the amazing memory has forgotten the movies in where he played a dog.
Oh, don't do that, Graham.
I'm sorry, Griff. I'm sorry.
That's sorry, dog. All right. Anyway,
you were going to look it up. What's the film then? You going to look it up?
Griff voice as a dog movie.
Yeah.
And then whenever I do that, Griff Reese Jones comes up on everything.
Oh, of course he does. Yeah. Yeah, he's stolen your thunder there, Griff.
I tell everybody that I say, just Google me. I said, there's going to be 2 Griffs. There's going to be a white Griff, a British dude who's been acting, and he's clearly not me when you see him. But it's not Rice. It's pronounced Reese, R-H-Y-S.
That's it, Griff Reese Jones.
Griff Reese Jones, and then me. So yeah. I'll share it with somebody in London. Dog, I can't think of the name of that movie, man, to save my life.
But how did you get that gig then?
They like my voice. That's how I've been getting gigs that's how I got the radio job. That they like my voice.
Yeah.
I didn't go to any school for radio, and they pretty much just, I'm on radio right now because they like my voice. They like my voice, and I got stories.
Yeah.
But what I don't have, hold on, I'm gonna remember this, dog. I'm looking at my own website. That's horrible. Ain't that horrible, dog? I'm looking at you. Sorry for making me. It's called Ernie and Serby. That's what it's called.
Ernie and Serby. Okay, and you play. And what kind of dog is it that you play?
It's like an American bulldog.
Okay, I
So
get
they
that.
made me go on a red carpet with the dog, right? I'm like, hey, Griff, what's
For the
that,
premiere,
man?
yeah.
The dog stole so much
Oh
of
wait,
everybody.
this isn't animated. It's a real dog, and you had to voice the voice of a real dog, right?
Yeah, it's
Right.
a proper dog. Like,
Right.
I know this is so Graham is a lot more savvy and stuff at me.
This is Aaron.
But this is what it looked like.
And I'm Serby. Serby and I, along with my brother
Let me turn this off.
have been together since the beginning of time. Ever since I can remember, humans have always struggled
Watch
with the
me.
complexity of love.
I shouldn't have kids, let alone two unbehaved, spoiled brats.
Those are your kids. How can you say that about them?
Even the gods have always been confused.
But
I'm coming up.
there's more to love and different kinds of love than just romance.
I want to know. I want a sense of adventure. I want to see people happy that help bring together.
So we took a trip to Earth to figure this love thing out. You know you look like a kid. I feel so tiny. I have tiny paws.
So that's me. I'm that
Wow.
little dog.
So what
Yeah.
happened on the red carpet then?
The dog pissed on somebody, and the dog was so damn unprofessional. I think the dog was Oscar Pistorius. And then the dog-
Maybe he knew him. Maybe he knew him. Yeah. So you did that, and tell me about your book.
I wrote a book for moms raising sons from the perspective of a son raised by his 16-year-old mother, and it's called Cats and Puppies. This is not a book about animals.
Right.
And basically I wrote a self-help book, man. I really just went to talk about my, growing up with all these stepfathers and making light of it. And, but I really end up teaching women what they never knew about their sons. And what that is when a boy is around between 7 and 9, he realizes his mom is a girl. Like, he realizes from going to school and like, wait a minute, she's not this giant monster lady that she's a girl. Like, she can get tickled and laugh. And then that's when we learn how to be on their nerves. You know what I'm saying? The same way we get on the girl when you're in school and in primary and the girl in front of you and you mess with her hair and she said, "Stop, Graham." And then you just start doing it to your mom. You know what I'm saying? And then Dr. John Gray wrote a book called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And we're not different planets, we're different species. And where I got it from is I did research, and a dog and a cat that had puppies and kittens at the same time within a couple hours. If the dog dies, let's say the mom dogs died, then the cat can raise the puppies as its own.
Yeah.
But as the puppy grows up, all it can do is tell it things it saw dogs do.
Right.
Like, if you throw a Frisbee, a dog supposed to go get it. But if you ever throw anything at a cat, they just be offended. Like, is you throwing stuff? What's happening right now? So that's where I kind of got it from. I wrote that in 2012. It's doing really good. I'm actually about to do the audiobook here in the next couple months.
Yeah. Well, you got the voice for it, Griff. The audio book will sound great when you get that going. Yeah.
I feel like I feel like I'll make more money doing an audiobook than people so lazy. They don't even want to read no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I did a picture book, it would be even better because people just look, they're listening to this podcast. They watching this podcast. It's 1 trillion books out here. They don't want to read them books, man.
Well, let's talk about podcasts and trillions as well. 2 trillion is what does that mean? Where does that come from? Because you've got this 2 trillion as your Twitter handle as well. What's that all about? 2 trillion.
That's a great question. In 99, in December of 99, the whole world was tripping on the Y2K bug. Remember?
Yeah.
They were saying that, man, January 1st, 2000, our social security numbers are going to erase all our bank accounts. So America was
Planes are going to
freaking
fall
out.
out the sky. Yeah.
It was, remember, it was
Yeah.
kind of hectic. Like nobody knew. And instead of being scared of it, I embraced it. So as of January 1st, 2000 on the radio, I wanted everybody to call me Griffy 2K.
Right.
I added the Y2K. So everybody called me Griffy 2K. I'm 50 years old this year. That was in 2000. My brother still call me 2K. It's people that call the radio station and go, Griffy 2K. That mean they know me since 2000, you know? And then I got on the radio again. And in 2007, Beyonce upgraded herself. And I
Right.
said, hey, I want to upgrade too. Do I want to be Griffy 2K or Griffy 2 trillion? So I just been going by 2 trillion like for the last 13, 14 years.
So what's the full title of the podcast then?
2 trillion thoughts.
2 trillion
It's
thoughts.
just, yeah. 2
And what's the
trillion
idea
thoughts.
behind that?
I just have met so many people and I want to talk to them. I think everybody has a thought-provoking story. I live in this neighborhood and I think me and my wife is like maybe it might be 6 black people that live out here, but I'm one of the 6, right? So I'm always waving at I walk this Jack Russell Terrier. They be like, oh, look at that giant man and that little dog. But it's a dude in the alley behind me who has a lot of cars, right? A lot of old school cars like 76 Plymouths and he has them covered up. And I've been saying, I've lived here a year next month and I haven't seen the dude. And I'm like, man, I want to talk to whoever lived there, right? Like I know he got some fresh, like I want him to take the top off of that thing. So I see him outside a couple weeks ago and he's working on his car. And me and my wife in the car in the alley about to go to our driveway. And in Texas, it's really weird. There's no garage doors in the front of the house. All the garages are in the back where your car is parked. So you have to literally pass your house, make a right, go to the back in the alley. And then, so get in your mind like a cheesy alley that's real shoddy, not that kind of alley. Like it's actually the beautifulest alley. Because that's what I think too. When I think of alley, I think of crime and murder and crackheads, like in that order. But it's like a really beautiful alley. So I'm talking to the dude. He has 1 million tattoos. Like he's tatted up everywhere, right? White guy. I park the car, I come back, walk down the street, and me and my wife chop it up with him for 40 minutes. I'm looking at all his tattoos. This dude was clearly locked up in jail. He has well over 24 Aryan swastikas. He got the line, like, I'm talking about this dude is a proper skinhead. He should not be talking to me and my black wife about nothing except murder, kill, right? And he's just going on and on about his car. And, I got this one and I got a friend. Hey, if you guys want, I could come by your house and and I'm going to ask him this. I ain't seen him since, but I'm going to knock on his door and say, Brett, it's Griff. Can I interview you? And he gonna be like, I was like, ain't nobody never we'll just do it on just a microphone, me and you. We ain't even got to do it on a video. Like, I have to know, why don't you hate black people no more?
Yeah.
Like, that's how I want to start it. Like, I want to talk to him about cars, woo, and then go, Brett, why you don't like black people or Jewish people no more? Or why do you?
Or why didn't you? And why are you okay with them now? Yeah, what happened?
I just believe that everybody has a story that can help somebody else on the planet. You know what I'm saying? I've always talked to homeless people, and if I could add up 100 homeless people conversations, man, they ended up being stuck homeless. They didn't choose to be homeless. They didn't, they had good jobs. They had, and then bad times came and they just couldn't get their head above water. I love talking to random people at the airport, because most people at the airport's in good moods because they leaving where they going and they going somewhere else.
Yeah.
I love to talk to people who wouldn't talk to me. Like, I make my wife say, "You just make people talk to you." I do. If I say, "Hey, how you doing?" and then they don't say nothing, I say it again, they don't say nothing, I'll go shake their hand. Because of COVID. I mean, I'll be like, "Hey, what's that?" I just feel like I'm living proof that you don't have to understand the language. You don't have to know anybody. You just have to be nice, and people will help you. You know what I'm saying? And I think Brett's story is so. I told my one of my moms that my dad married, who lives north of me. I told her about this dude. Now, she worked at San Quentin jail in California for 18 years. So she was like, yeah, he was probably locked up and he had to do what he had to do while he was locked up, But I feel sorry for him because he paints and he's a plumber, so independent dude, makes his own money. But he got so many swastika. After 24, I stopped counting. I was like, that's a lot. And when I'm telling my wife, I don't think she knows what I'm looking at. I'm like, do you? Every time he fixes his tire and he look away, I go, look at his arm, look at his neck, look right here. And she's like, what? So it just means something. I want to hear his story where he said, I hated everybody and then one day, ...
Yeah. Well, you don't know. You've not had him on yet. He's the prime guest, and he's your neighbor.
I want it. I'm looking for him. He my neck, and I'd have had celebrities and other people. It does. I'm gonna have you on, but Brett though.
Yeah, he's the guy. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's called 2 Trillion Thoughts. It's with Griff. We get it wherever you get podcasts, Apple, iTunes, the whole thing, the audio boom, everywhere. Where else can we find out more about you, Griff?
You can go to 2trillion.com, number 2, the word trillion.com. I'm at 2trillion on Instagram, Twitter, every morning, Monday through Friday. I'm on Get Up Mornings with Erica Campbell. You can go to Get Up Erica, ERICA, getuperica.com, 6 to 10 Eastern, 5 to 9 Central in America. I think for y'all, we come on at 1 p.m.
Yeah. So not antisocial. It's a good time to listen to Griff. Yeah, anytime's a good time to listen to you, Griff. And Griff, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time and for being on Podcast Radio. This is the whole unedited interview. If you're either watching this live on YouTube or if you're watching the recording of it unedited live, this will be cut up, and in 2 weeks' time, Griff will be my special guest on the Pod 20 on Podcast Radio. And nice. I'll have a word with the boss. We should get your podcast on the station as well, shouldn't we? That's what we should do.
Let me know. See, Graham.
I'll talk to Jerry. Graham. I will talk to Jerry and get you on the air. We're on the air. If you want to listen to Podcast Radio, we're on DAB in London, in Manchester, in Glasgow, in Birmingham, and of course we're online everywhere else as well. And
who's your favorite soccer team?
Liverpool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Light blue.
No, red. You're thinking of Manchester City.
No, Manchester is... Oh, United is red. Manchester City is light blue.
Yeah,
Liverpool.
Yeah. Liverpool's red. Liverpool is the team. And we're watching the Euros at the moment. Have you got a team in there?
Exactly.
You got a team in the Euros?
I was watching... somebody just got out. I was watching the 2 games yesterday.
Okay, so you watched Wales and Italy? Yeah.
Yes.
And Wales went through? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll take you to a soccer match when you're in the UK. Maybe we'll go and watch Liverpool together one day.
Let me tell you something. I would absolutely love to watch a Liverpool match with Grand Mack. That is a huge deal. I would love to. Let's make it happen.
Let's see if we can. Griff, always a pleasure talking to you. Stay safe, my friend, and thanks for bringing so much joy to so many people around the world. Fantastic.
Oh, man. Thank you so much, Graham. We're going to talk because I want you on my show.
Oh, that's a deal. I'll be on your show. I'd love to be on. Thanks a lot,
All right,
Griff.
baby.
Cheers,
Stay
mate.
blessed.
Bye-bye.